Hello, staff, teachers, paraprofessionals as well. I wanted to take an opportunity to answer some of the questions that were asked during the PLCs this past week concerning Power Hour implementation with the Ready product. And there were a lot of questions, so it's going to be easier for me to just read your questions and answer them, and I'll highlight them as I answer them. So the first question asked was, how many small groups will the teacher be teaching during Power Hour? Every class has their own variation in their groups, and so you have to work that out. One opinion that I gave that I thought would work is that, three groups, meaning that there would be three distinct groups in the classroom, or possibly four groups, and the teacher would lead two of those groups. In a three-group setting, the teacher would teach two groups, and then the paraprofessional or interventionist would teach the other group. That would allow in your hour each teacher to be with each group for approximately 30 minutes, and then the interventionist to be with a group for a minimum of 30 minutes. Now, in some cases where I know in our upper grades, like 3, 4, 5, you guys have your interventionist for the whole hour, you might be able to keep it at four groups where the interventionist does two groups and then you all do two groups. In situations there, it's different from classroom to classroom. If there's less help, then you might have to have three groups, and nothing says that the group can't be a little bit bigger. So if you have excellent classroom management, and I've been in classes where I've seen 7 kids around a small group table, then by all means do the best you can. But at the end of the week, the goal is that all students would have been taken through the material, and you have to work that out in your own classroom. Okay. Number 2 says, is it not allowed to continue with 3 20-minute groups as before? Okay, again, with that question right there, when you look at the Ready implementation guide, the program is not designed for a lesson to be delivered within 20 minutes. So therefore, the answer to that is no, you can't have 3 20-minute groups, because you can't get the product quality delivered in a quality manner in 20 minutes. So that answer is no, you cannot do that, which is why, again, you have the groups where you meet with them for 30 minutes at a minimum. That day one sometimes might be a little bit shorter, and you may not need the whole 30 minutes, but if you need routine, make sure you stick to the 30 minutes. This one says, okay, it's a little bit longer. With students of 19 or more and limited computers in K1, will larger groups have to be created to fit the model for Power Hour? Let me answer that first. Yes. The second one says, will students have to share books if there are only 6 to 7 books per group and there are 8 to 9 students? Well, I guess in an instance where that one doesn't make sense to me, because if there are, if the paraprofessional is in there, you guys have been given a 2/3 class set. So I guess it could be where you may only have 12 books or 11 books, something like that. If you have 14 books, it just depends. So what my answer to that one will be is, then yes, they will have to share the book. If you don't have enough and you have more kids than you have books, then they can look on and share. And in K1, that's going to be very easy anyway, because again, it's based on read aloud text, and so when you are reading to the students, sometimes that activity in the book follows, and because they're not writing in the book, there might be some things that they do on paper separately. So again, that answer is yes, they may have to share. Question 4 asks, if iStation is not working, can students work on an independent task that is not ready while waiting to be called for the group? Yes, they can work on an independent task that is rigorous enough for them to work on. That would be something that would be planned ahead, because you should always have a contingency plan in place. 5. For paras or interventionists, will they work with the same group weekly? I've already kind of talked to a couple people about this. That is up to the individual teacher to decide who that para works with and who they work with. If it were me and I were doing it, I would make sure that at least for the week, I think it's good practice for the week that the teacher works with a consistent group. So for instance, whether you're doing whether you're meeting with two groups a day, because you have, well, all teachers will meet with at least two groups per day. But it might be that you're meeting with two, and if you have your paraprofessional or interventionist for a whole hour, then they may be able to meet with two groups. I would keep those consistent for the week. I don't see the point in messing that up with you go to this person each day. I know every classroom, guys, believe it or not, is different. Everyone does different things. Some people are extremely organized and they have it. Others aren't. And that might be part of where that question is coming from. But I would make sure that at least for the week. Now, for instance, in a rotation where the teacher, like say there's three groups and the teacher's working with two groups a day and the para is working with one group, I know that maybe this week I'm gonna work with my low students and maybe my medium, and then maybe the para this week is working with the high students all week. Then maybe next week I'm going to work with my high students and my low students, and then the para on that week works with the medium level students. You have the discretion, but to keep it consistent and so that the person who is helping the student can pick up where they left off, I don't think mixing up the students within the week is going to be helpful. If for week to week purposes, I do think that you should change it up, because ultimately the responsibility relies on the teacher to know where those kids are, and you should be having that touch point with them. Okay. Number 6 is a good question. It asks, when an interventionist or para is not scheduled to come daily, what should their group be working on independently since Ready is scripted? This kind of works in that grade level where I think there's some grade levels where the person may not come daily. I think that's an individual thing I'll have to address with you guys, but and where that para is split, which is a very few grade levels, what some grade levels have decided to do instead of not having them come daily is they have them for 30 minutes and then the other teacher has them for 30 minutes so that each person has that para each day. That would allow you to do the rotations of 3 to where the para can do one group and you can do 2 group. So again, if they're not coming daily, then you need to work with that person who you share them with or who they also serve, and get it to where they come see you maybe the top of the hour and they go see them the bottom of the hour. That would allow your groups to be fluid every day. That's the fix to that. So just change that up, and instead of coming to see me on Monday, you on Tuesday, you're going to come see me Monday for the first 30. You're going to go see them for the second 30 minutes. I think that'll be a good quick fix. Number 7 asks, when an interventionist or para is not scheduled to come daily, how will those students remain on pacing with the lesson? I don't know of many instances. That almost seems like the same question as 6, because in all instances there should be someone scheduled to come daily, unless, earlier in the year you guys did something weird and kind of divvied up the schedule and decided that they don't come every day. And again, that's probably I know that's not 3rd grade, 4th grade, or 5th grade. That might be something kind of going on in 2nd grade, possibly kindergarten. But 1st and 3rd through 5th, that shouldn't be an issue. So again, for number 7, go back to what I said on number 6. Number 8, is it the teacher's responsibility to inform the para of the lesson being taught ahead and how to use a teaching manual? Listen, it is someone's responsibility to ensure that they know how to do it, and ultimately between the teacher, the coaches, some of the interventionists have come, they've got their manuals and they're making sure that they understand. I don't mind you all sharing the login code, but I don't know if all the paras, some have access to computers, some do not. So it is the responsibility of the teacher to ensure that the paras are informed. That's just professional courtesy, because you want to make sure that your students that they are working with are on task and are provided the appropriate feedback. So yes, I guess if you need a straight answer there, it would rely on the teacher and also Miss Clark, and I'm also available as well. But it's just reading, looking ahead, taking a glance at it, and as long as the manual is present, then those answers should be able to be answered and the kids should be guided along. All right, number 9, is the teacher toolbox supposed to be used by the teacher to download and review the lessons ahead of time? Is the manual to be used by the para? Again, I'm not going to get into a strict answer on that because some teachers may actually prefer the use of their manual, while others may prefer using the computer online and then lend the manual to the paraprofessional. Here is the answer is that each party who is delivering the instruction and working with kids needs to be resourceful and knowledgeable of the answers. So however that is best figured out, I'm going to leave that up to the individual teacher and the para with whom they work, because that might be different in different situations. But again, each person needs to know the answers. Unfortunately, I did not have enough funds to buy every single person a manual, but you do have access to the online toolbox, and the teacher has accessibility to a computer. So one mind would say that the teacher could use her laptop and look at hers and lend the manual to the para. But again, if there are some who might be a little more territorial and they want to keep their manual with them, I'm not getting into that. Just make sure that everyone knows what they should be doing. Okay. Number 10 says, what form of accountability do you prefer the students use since they can't write in the books? Journals, folders, WikiSticks. Okay, WikiSticks and things like that, those are monitoring tools. WikiSticks, little pointy fingers, evidence clips that I've sent you guys emails about, sticky notes. Those are ways for the kids to interact with the text to keep them engaged with the text while reading. But ultimately the students should be, and I think that's also answered in the email as well, is they should have a journal. It needs to be a journal that is just your ready journal, your Power Hour journal, because if you don't have them with a consistent journal, they'll be coming with loose scraps of paper and it'll be a nightmare. They need to have a journal that they write in K1. Take advantage of, utilizing some of those, the non-line or even the line paper. You could draw a couple circles ahead of time. You could do things ahead of time to make sure that the kids understand what they are to do, because they might be connecting lines, drawing things. It's more based on reading aloud, not a lot of heavy writing. But in 2nd through 5th, they actually do start writing more. So as long as the kids can have the book to read and to look at, they will be able to interact with the text. This is new, so if we begin to run into bumps along the road, we will figure out how to fix those and how to address those in the most productive manner. But the goal, which goes back to why we don't want you trying to do 20-minute rotations, is that within the 30 minutes, there should be evidence, because the students are answering the questions in your presence. Therefore, they're not, in most cases, they're not taking the books back to their desks, working on them at the desk. Therefore, you're going to have the books with you. I'm not saying that the students won't ever have the opportunity to take the books back to the desk, but it will be impossible for the whole class, because you don't have a class set to have the book in front of them at all times. So you want to be prepared by making sure that they have journals and writing utensils. Question 11 says, for grades 2 through 5 for Google Classrooms, can the articles or stories from Ready be uploaded? Hey, if you can figure out how to get that thing going, just, I'm just going to go on to the next question, number 12. So, in other words, I'm not saying no, but again, they need to have a written accountability piece. Some of you guys have iPads and other things and ways of doing things. Some of you guys are so tech savvy and probably already got something in place. I'm not knocking anybody's creativity, innovation, and willingness to think outside of the box. Therefore, just share with me some of the great things that you guys are doing when I stop by. All right. Number 12, I see the word Kindle, so that's probably K1. 1st grade, is there a method in which students can interact, to underline, highlight with the text other than listen to the story being read to by the teacher on the laptop or the Kindle? the answer to that is in kindergarten and first grade, if you guys go into the Ready Toolbox and look at the implementation guide, it is very specific, and around about page 3, and you may have now seen this, I don't know if that's included in your manual, but on the toolbox there is, and I'm just going to show, I'm going to take an opportunity to pull this up because I actually have that here because I have just addressed that before. If you guys look here in kindergarten and first grade, when you there's a document, it's when you log into the toolbox, it's under implementation plan or guide, I believe. There is a handout which talks about how to implement the Ready with the standards. And what you have to understand is in kindergarten and first grade, as it says right here, rich interactive read aloud text is an important part of the curriculum. Students at these levels can listen and comprehend much more complex material than they can read it independently. So there is no need right now for them to interact because, again, and trust me, ask the teachers in the higher grades, they do need to learn how to sit and listen. It's okay. Make them sit down and listen. No interaction right now because the interaction is going to come a little bit later. Here are some excerpts again from just some research that the curriculum experts at Ready have done. Is read aloud selection should be at levels of complexity well above what students can read on their own. This piece says children in early grades, particularly K2, should participate in rich, structured conversation with an adult in response to written texts that are read aloud. And that goes over orally comparing and contrasting as well as analyzing and synthesizing in the manner called for by, again, the standards. It's part of Common Core standards, which are the Florida standards for reading. But again, conversation, guys. We want teachers talking to students, asking them questions, keeping them on task so they don't need to be fiddling with a piece of paper with words on it that they aren't able to read at this time. And this one is very important. Here it says, by reading a story or nonfiction, read aloud, teachers allow children to experience written language without the burden of decoding, granting them access to content that they may not be able to read or understand by themselves. Children are then free to focus their mental energy on the words and ideas presented in the text, and they will eventually be better prepared to tackle rich written content on their own. So follow the program as intended. You know, they don't need, there are no books for them to read. I can't buy books. Don't go typing them up or doing anything. No extra work. Just follow the script as it's laid out in your manual. So I hope that that answers that question for you guys. This is a great question, and I understand we're always talking about text interaction, but in K1 their interaction is different, and if you look at those standards, there's a lot of things that are, when prompted, students can ask and retell and restate. So they have to develop that clear concept of listening, and trust me, our kids need to learn how to listen. Number 13, how many days a week should it take to get through one lesson in grades 2 through 5? In all grade levels, it should take a week. That also, there is an implementation guide in Ready that lists how to go through the lesson, which you should do on day 1 all the way through day 5. There is no, the lesson sometimes it progresses, but there is not a test at the end. There is things that they do every day. So it needs to be stretched out for the week. It seems like it was another question. I don't know if this question was asked, but I do want to address it. What if, and it's asked kind of differently. Like, what if, just say someone's absent. Say your paraprofessional or your interventionist is absent. What you need to kind of do is think ahead and just have that rainy day plan. Hopefully the board will be updated, but I know sometimes you don't know until you don't know. Every now and then there will be a time when someone will have to be pulled and it will deviate from the plan. This will be the exception, not the rule. When this happens, and it's difficult because, so let me answer from a premise of, what if my para is absent today, or the interventionist is absent today? How do we work that with the groups? This goes back to kind of if there were 3 groups. So say they have 3 groups, or say they have 2 groups. I will, so that we can stay on pace and lessons, the kids don't get behind. what I would do is during your 120-minute reading block on that day for small group, maybe that para works with only one group. Then during the small group time, that would be the activity that I would do with that group. Now, if doing that is going to throw them off from whatever other small group activity that you have planned for them, which in most cases it shouldn't, then not. But what I would do is, because there's going to be times when that's going to happen. So my answer is, if you know ahead that Ms. Leatherwood isn't coming today because she is absent, then the group that Ms. Leatherwood is assigned, which also goes back to why they should work with the same students, at least for the week, then I'm going to pull her group and I'm going to work with them during the 120 minutes. Or if you have power hour first, like I know first grade does, then I would, then you can just take care of that ready portion in small group with the group that you may have missed. So I hope that answers the question, what if someone doesn't come? How do we keep students on task? Guys, we just have to be innovative and creative, think outside the box. The end of the day is you want all your students to get through the lesson. It's done the work is laid out. All we have to do is kind of think around the product because, we're living, we're breathing. There will be nuances that get in the way, just like there may be days when you aren't there, someone will have to deliver it. But we will try as much as we can to, and if that includes myself, Mr. Gaymont, I've talked to the resource staff to be on standby that if we've got to come in and cover a group because a paraprofessional is absent, then we'll come in. We just need to pick up where's the group, give us the materials, because we've got to move reading in this school, and we will do so. So let's just all put our heads together. And thank you for the questions concerning Ready. If you have any additional questions, email me, and I'll be more than happy to answer them if your question was not on the list. Thanks for the great questions. A couple questions about STAR as we were starting. And I looked at some of the results coming in with STAR today. Some aren't finished and just continue to follow the makeup schedule so that students finish. Do want to send a shout out to Ms. Powers, 5th grade class. Those kids came in at 63%. Yay! Now if we can just finish strong, guys, 63%, which I told you guys that 5th grade will have a record year this year of high reading scores. We won't claim it, believe it, stand on that, but it is good to see when you put put them to it that they're able to perform. So way to go, Ms. Powers. Again, also I did see some students who are wrapping up in Ms. Hester's math class, and I think our 4th grade and our 5th grade, one class, they're not finished, but the half that finished was at like 60%. The other half was at 70%. I'm talking about proficiency. So great things going on in there. Thank you, Ms. Hester. And other grades, I've not seen completion rates to give any comparative analysis, but we just kicked it off. So the question is, why do students need to be tested in a computer lab setting? Because that's just the way that I've designed it this time. I want to make sure that students are afforded equal opportunity across the board. I want all parties to understand that this is very serious. Our last STAR results came back in at 36%, and I get it. It was just after a hurricane and all that, but at the end of the day, due to that lower number, we had the model lessons. We did a week with that. I, just like you guys, we don't want to be, you don't want to be marked down on your evaluations due to performance, but STAR is a very heavy indicator for me, and I know that I've been dinged on that in the past. I've shared that, and I'll be honest, everyone doesn't take it seriously. So I, along with the coaches, we have put very stringent guidelines in place, which adds an element of seriousness to this so that students don't blow it off. We've got a great dance for them. So just having that setting, knowing that only one group is going at a time, helps us. Kids are not distracted by noises and nuances in the hallway. Anything could be going on. So the lab setting for this assessment is the best. Number 2, why will non-FTE students be tested? When will they? I think it's saying, why will they not be tested? Because what I want to have is a clear piece of information that lets me know what our data is looking like, because STAR is much more now than just, AR purposes, which we're going to share a lot more with you on that in the upcoming weeks. I want to be able to see, because STAR has a very high reliability rate for predicting our proficiency. We were within 1 percentage point last year. So if that number is diluted, or percentage is diluted by students who don't count, it does not give me a clear picture. And rather than have to go back and do the work of pulling them all out, I can have a clear picture of where we are before the break and then just go and add them in and do a comparative analysis that way. That's just thinking with the end in mind of, when I think at the end, why would I go with multiple lists and find all these kids and pull them all out when I can just not test them now and have my score and then test them later? So that's why I'm asking you not to test them now. So please be very cautious and adhere to those guidelines. That's in grades 3 through 5 only, because you guys get the FSA report. K2 does not get the FSA report, so those students can't all test. But I will still, when I'm looking at teacher data to see how your kids are moving, I will be able to look at the kids who you've had all year to see how they are growing, okay? Number 3, why is it important to be aware of students' 504 and IEP accommodations? That was asked. Because it's a legal guideline, guys. Unless you're brand new, you do not. We had the 504 IEP training last year. All teachers should be aware, because it's a legal document that protects students. And if there is an accommodation that you should be following on a daily basis in the classroom, then it's your responsibility to make sure that that accommodation is provided. So how else would you know lest you were aware? So if you don't know, you can go into enrich.polk-fl.net and log in, and you can pull up any student's 504 IEP and make sure that you read over those. We want our students to be successful. IEPs are in place for a reason. It is there because there is documented evidence that students have a form of a disability which affords them additional opportunities. It is malpractice not to do it. It'd be like if I had high blood pressure and didn't take my medicine because, it wouldn't be like me. It would be like me being the administrator of a patient with high blood pressure medicine and not giving it to them because I didn't know that they needed it. And then, they stroke out. Oh, well, what happened? Oh, I should have known that they needed it. That would have been an easy fix. I'm being a little facetious, but that question is kind of funny that would be asked. Number 4 is, why is it important to read the script from the testing manual before testing? Were you guys just like messing with Sophia, asking why is it important to read the script? You read the script because there's a script, and a script normalizes what is being said to students. All jokes aside, it's important. Just like with FSA, there is a script. If you read the script verbatim, you don't have to worry about having told them the wrong thing, not giving them correct information, or, oh, I left something out, or I didn't know that I could do this. So the script normalizes it because, again, we want the message to be delivered uniformly to all students in all settings so that I can have a true, accurate depiction of our data and our students' performance. So that was a lengthy recording, but you guys had great questions. And again, we are ready for our implementation with Ready. We'll be in a power hour near you next week, but to help, not to be like we're not coming in with an evil eye trying to catch anyone doing wrong. We're actually looking for the good. We want to see how can we make this better? What is it that we need to do? There might be tweaks. Some have dug in. I even caught one teacher doing power hour with Ready on yesterday. I was like, oh, what's that at? I didn't get upset. She's so kind. She just said, I just had to look at it. I couldn't, I wanted to be prepared for next week. And to me, the best way to get prepared was to just look at it a couple days ahead of time so that I can familiarize myself with it. And I mean, was she a little bit, did she deviate from the plan? Yes. Did I ask her about it? Yes. But it wasn't friction. It wasn't a bad conversation. And at the end of the day, guys, I'm human too. I appreciated that teacher wanted to make sure that she knew what she was doing. And who can knock somebody for making sure that they know what they're doing? not me. So with that, if you have any other questions, please email me, and I hope your Power Hour and STAR questions have been answered. Oh, real quick, STAR dance for 3rd through 5th grade. We did not designate whether it was just reading they had to improve on or math. So if they go up in reading or math, I mean, reading is the push, but reading or math, they will have an opportunity for the dance. So if they've gone up in math but not reading, they're not kicked out of the dance. Vice versa. Have a blessed weekend on that, but share this with a friend. If they've not read it, tell them, watch the video. Your questions have been answered. Thanks.